Hey y'all, hey, what's good? This is your girl Kamika coming to you live from What's Good from the desk of the therapist. I am again your girl Kamika, and I am the therapist. Super excited about our topic for today. We are going to be talking about adoption and foster parenting, and I'm super excited about my special guest that I have joining me all the way from Wisconsin today. It's such a blessing to have her. But without further ado, I'm going to ask my special guest if she would be kind enough to join me on stage and introduce herself to the people.
Hey, good evening, everyone. What's good? What's good is being here tonight. I am Dr. Angela Hawkins, all the way from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, by way of Indianapolis, Indiana. And I am a school administrator and first lady of a church. I wear multiple hats. I love what I do, passionate about children, and passionate about community service. So that's what's good in my life.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I'm going to call you the doctor.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, I believe it.
Girl, yes. First of all, thank you so much for taking time to be with your girl and bless the stage today. I greatly appreciate it. It is not something that I take lightly. I love you. You are my sister. And again, just thank you for being here. But today we are going to talk about a very important topic. And any topic that we discuss on this podcast is related to mental health. Today's topic is adoption and fostering, right? Which we both have experience with.
We
Yes.
do.
So let me ask you, foster parenting. Why did you become a foster parent?
So, long story short, I come from a family where my family always took in children. Like it was just what we did. So we always had someone's extra children. If a family member needed something or someone, our home was the home that you could find refuge. And because I had this desire, even before I knew that I couldn't have children, I had always said I was just going to adopt a child. Not sure where it stemmed from, other than I just believe that there are so many children that need homes. I just, I don't know. It was just a deep seated desire to want to take in children. And so, um, at a certain point in my life, I realized that I couldn't have children. And so that kind of just sparked and pushed me to want to do it more. And lo and behold, adopted a child. So it started with fostering. So you asked me why did I foster? I just always believe that um, especially in the Black community, that there are children that, due to circumstances beyond their control, they don't have what they need. And I was blessed and fortunate to come up and have a wonderful, loving home. And I just always wanted to provide that for someone else. And so that's kind of how I stumbled across fostering as a principal. I would always come in contact with foster children, and I can tell you the very person who told me about fostering and kind of pushed me to do it, and it just kind of unfolded. And I truly believe it was a God thing that kind of led me down this path. And as I got more involved, I met more people, and it just became its own community of people who foster. I will tell you, in the Black community, there's not enough foster parents. So if it's something that you feel a calling to do, it is ministry. It is ministry of itself to give back to a child.
Absolutely. So my why, early on, I had started very young having children, right? And then I got to an age and stage was like, I ain't about to keep popping out all these babies. What we doing, bro? So I got my tubes signed, girl. I was like, I can't do it no more, bro. And then I said, you know what? I kept having that itch. I love babies, And so I kept having those itch, and I live in what they call a very affluent area, right? And so I would often see babies of color with parents who are not of color. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I was so appreciative that they opened up their home and their heart to even care for them. But I said, we got to, your point, do better with taking care of our own within our own. And so we signed up for to become foster parents. And at that time, we wanted to foster medically fragile children.
Oh,
And so, here we have a children's hospital that's called Raleigh Children's Hospital. And all of my babies, as I would receive them, would be Raleigh kids, so to speak. They came with tubes and different diagnosis, and I had to feed
yeah.
them. And I had to, like, really, it was a full time job caring for these medically fragile babies. But that's one thing that I really like about fostering, that they ask you, what type of child, what's a good fit for you and your family. So you get to speak to, no, I don't want any children, with this background within my home, because at the same time, I'm still raising our other children, at that time. But essentially that was my why. And something that I'm still very passionate about to this day. But I remember my children's grandmother, she was my introduction. She had fostered many children and adopted quite a few herself. And then to that point, I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, to your point, it's a ministry. I can give back in this way, So we'll talk about our experiences, but that's your why and that's my why.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think back, how many children, or do you know how many children you fostered?
Only about 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Many of them were family members, and they ended up being more long term. My first set were 2 sisters, and I had them for almost 18 months. And up until 10, 11 years ago, I was single. And so trying to foster as a single person and work a job posed a challenge. Um,
Yeah.
but it was definitely something that helped me to develop compassion as an educator. I always knew that I was an amazing educator. And I say that just based on the accolades and the achievements, but just knew that I was good at what I did. But being a foster parent totally changed the way I led, the way I engaged with parents.
Mm-hmm.
I had a deeper understanding for parents that struggle with children that have mental health issues. So it
Yeah.
really helped to develop me as a more well-rounded leader as I
Yeah.
continue to foster. So you asked me the number 8, not including the child that we adopted. So 9.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't. And so let me ask you: did it vary from age, ethnicity? Yeah,
And so I will tell you, as when I first got into it, I was just super involved. Like, just give me anybody, just I'll take anybody. And then as I learned that I could be more selective. And for example, at one point, I had a set of children. Um, there was a little girl; she was 10, and her brother was 2. Amazing children. But as a single person, to parent and to foster parent a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old, it was challenging. Again, my heart goes out to parents that have children that have 6, 7 year age gap. But for me as a single parent, to want to give her the best and to want to give him the best, it was a challenge. So that was short lived. The good thing in this case was that there was a family member who came and took them. So I am also blessed that in all of the situations that I had, it was either a family member came to take them, or they returned back to their family. Those were the better situations. I know of others who've had children and it didn't turn out so well. But I'm blessed and fortunate that the children that I had ended up going back to relatives or had more of a happy ending, if you want to say that, when fostering.
I remember having. I don't remember the number of children that we actually were blessed to foster, but I remember having different children of different ages and different ethnicities. I remember a brother sister pair that I had, and they came into the home with lice, and that was very new for me. That was a very different experience for me,
Okay.
right?
I'm trying,
I'm like, girl, I'm like,
trying to
okay,
tell.
let's go immediately to the CVS because I need to understand how to treat this. And with them, they had never experienced eating with utensils. They had never eaten at a table. And if I'm not mistaken, they were like 6 and 8, something like that, around that age. That was very short lived because also within the home, as you're, fostering, and we're talking about, most of my children, the children we foster, they came from DCS, so the Division of Child Services. So, to your point, ideally it was a temporary removal until the parents were able to get themselves, in a more stable situation. So we looked at it, or I looked at it as support services,
Mhm.
closing the gap, loving on a child while their family member, gets themselves together. However, the reality, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but some parents, because of the way that the child was removed from the home, they look at you like the enemy,
Right.
and they be ready to fight. They be ready to go to war, and you like, no, like I got my white flag, like I'm waving this bad boy, like
I'm just
I
here,
come in peace, right?
here to help.
I'm here to help you, sis. I mean, no, why you got my baby? Crazy story. I remember one, and we want to still talk. We gonna keep it real, so we gonna give the good, the bad. We just talk about our experiences, right? But I
Right.
had one mother, and she was a young mother, and it was a situation of neglect, and she just wasn't giving her baby the steroids, so he wasn't growing the way that he should have been growing. He looked like a cute little baby when in all actuality he was much older than that because he wasn't getting his medication. But I remember, taking the children to the supervised visits because as foster parents, sometimes they still have the
Yep.
supervised visitation set up, right? And so the parents are able to still spend supervised
Yep.
time with their child, and we have to make sure that we get them to those appointments to see their parents, and doctor's appointments, dentist appointments. That's all on us. But yeah, I remember going one day, and yeah, homegirl was ready to throw down with the throwdown, and I'm like, girl, I ain't about to lose my license,
Right.
sis.
Fooling around with you and
There
your
was
craziness.
your craziness, your craziness. But have you had any experiences like that, or good or bad, or?
So I will tell you, I think some of the more challenging experiences that I have been more so dealing with the children themselves.
Mm,
So in fostering, oftentimes, yes, you're taking them to their supervised visits. I will say I was fortunate enough to have a caseworker who would intervene, and I would either meet them at, and this again was in Indianapolis, and so I would meet them at the office on Keystone. I'd go into my waiting room, they'd come and get the child, they take the child to the parent, then they bring the child back to me. I think the most challenging though would be when the children would come back from visiting, and oftentimes they were angry, they were upset, they were mad because again, as children, they don't understand all the things that are going on and at play that are causing this situation to be the way that it is. And so I think the most challenging would be dealing with the children after the fact. And again, it takes a special kind of person to want to do this work because in education, we say all behavior is communication. And so when you're thinking about a child who is angry and refusing to talk to you and refusing to do, and their behaviors are escalating from stealing, hitting, kicking, all those kind of things, you're like, I'm trying to give you a better life and you want
not
to kick
trying
it.
to. I am not trying to, sis, but I am.
But you want to act the fool with me.
Yeah.
And then even to I do remember there was a time where I came in contact with a parent and her attitude was stank. And I'm thinking, y'all act like, as you said, I'm not the enemy. I'm
Girl,
just the person who is standing in the gap while you trying to get your life together. I'm not
absolutely.
trying. And so again, though, it definitely takes um the mindset to want to do this, because it is a thankless kind of job. You mentioned,
Absolutely.
having
Yeah.
to take the children to doctor's visits, having to, I mean, you are caring for them as your own, but
Yes.
then you realize that they're not, because
Yes.
then there's so many other things that handcuff you. I mean, again, if you were mine, I might have popped you. If you were mine, I might have done some other things to you, but you ain't mine, so I can't.
Yes.
And so then you got that whole dynamic going on. And then you've got, the calls that you're getting from school based
Yes.
on their behavior. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that go into it. And at the end of the day, though, I recognize and realize that this place that the
Hmm.
child finds himself in my home, I hope and pray that years later they're able to look back on it and say, here was a stretch of time where somebody
Yeah.
loved me. And I
Absolutely.
believe that they will wake up and realize, like, you know what, she loved me. And the one
Yes.
thing that I would always do is I would give them a card or a note and stick it in their suitcase when they were leaving and say, okay, if you ever need anything, this is my number. My number never changes. And I will tell you, to this day, my number has not changed,
Yeah.
because I know that there may be a time where that kid is going to need somebody. My number has never changed. And I not pride myself on that, but I pride myself on the fact that my number is not going to change. I'm here for you regardless. And I hold to that. And I believe that we need more people that want to do this work. It is
Absolutely.
wonderful work
It
years
is.
later when you
It
see
is.
children that you've had and you're like, okay, not all of y'all turned out to be blind, crippled, and crazy. Some
Yes.
of y'all did turn out to be okay. Some of y'all did turn out to go on and go to school and do something. So, I mean, your original question was, I can tell you some stories. I can tell you some stories, but I also don't want to discourage anyone from doing it, because
Yeah.
everyone's story isn't like this. I have friends who have had amazing experiences with children.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Amazing experience with adopting teenagers. You get those kids that are hard to place. I will tell you, one of the things that was most, I don't want to say disturbing, but DCS has the child's lookbook, where you
Hmm.
see the picture of all the kids, and it
Oh,
has
wow.
who they are and who their siblings are and what they like and all of that. And when you see that book of all those children that need homes, now
Wow.
that
That's
is
touching.
gets my heart.
That's touching.
When
Hey,
you
and
see,
no,
no,
I want to go
when
to
you
your.
see hundreds of children that need homes.
Yes, but I want to go back to your point of while we are acknowledging and just talking through our personal experiences, we continue to foster. So I don't want anybody to be confused.
Yeah.
We just talking about our experiences, but we continue to show up when you get that call in the middle of the night, and hey, I got another one. Can you take a baby? Can you take a child? We continue to do it because we had a heart to serve and we remember our why behind doing it. But let me ask you now. So we transitioned from fostering to now to adoption. How does that come about for you?
So now I will tell you, initially I wanted to adopt, and I had looked into private adoption. And when I began to do my research and found out the cost for private adoption, and when I dug into where the dollars go through private adoption, and how one out of every two private adoption fails, and
Oh,
most times people will have 3 to 4 failed adoption attempts
wow.
before
Wow.
they have a one that goes through. I was like, okay, I can't afford to go through private adoption, because a
Yeah.
private adoption was anywhere from 15 to $20,000. Now, again, 9 times out of 10, most times when people are doing private adoption, they want an infant. And ideally I did. I wanted an infant. However, my pocketbook could not afford 15 to $20,000. And so that's when I found out about DCS and fostering to adopt. So, you are placed with a child, caseworker calls you and says, hey, we have a child. The situation could lead to adoption. Right now, we're kind of working through, seeing what the parents are going to do. Of course, everybody hopes that the parents are going to redeem themselves and come around and life is going to go back to the way it was. But in this particular case, we got a little girl at 6, and we had her up until 4th grade. So we had her for 4 years fostering to adopt
Mhm.
before, parental rights were terminated. And then we had to go through that process. You had to go through the process of trying to identify who the father is. So it took about 4 or 5 years before we were able to finally adopt this child in the 4th grade. So we got her when she was 6, and we adopted her when she was in the 4th grade. That alone is an interesting journey.
It
It's
is.
definitely not for the faint at heart, but again, it is a different kind of journey. And the thing that I say to so many people who adopt, and they're like, "Well, you don't know what you're gonna get, honey. You can have a child and you don't know what you're gonna get. You
Baby,
can have your own biological child and don't know what you."
baby.
And so I think, oftentimes people are concerned with all the things that could happen. All those things could happen if you have your own child. You can have a child that's disabled. You can have a child that has mental health issues. You can
Yeah,
have a child that comes out with one arm and no legs. You can have a child with any one of these situations that you can encounter in adoption. And I think for so many people, though, they don't allow their heart to receive and take this child in as their own. And I don't
mhm.
believe that there has to be a biological connection for you to love a child
Absolutely.
as
Absolutely.
your own.
Right.
The spiritual parallel, we are born and adopted into the body of Christ. He becomes our father. When we take him on, when we accept him, he takes us on as his. There is no separation between you, and you. You are one of his. And I feel the same way about adoption. When you adopt a child, they are yours.
Yeah.
There's black, no take back. You can't give them back, they're yours. And so that becomes um that became kind of the process that we went through.
Mhm.
um and I mean, again, it was not an easy road, but parenting isn't easy. There is no
Yes.
book
Right.
on parenting. And
Right.
so you have some children that come to you and they do everything that they're supposed to do, and then you have other children that come to you and buck every single rule. I think what was hard for me is because I was the child who, you told me to do something, I followed the rules. So it was a little challenging to get a child who wanted to buck every rule. You said right, she said left. You said black, she said gray. You said up, she said down. I said yes, she said no. I said stop, she said I'm not. But your child is your child.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that the space and time and love that we give them is life changing for them, because
Yeah.
they come from places of trauma. They come from places of separation anxiety. They come from places of detachment. They come from places of not understanding why the
Yeah.
person who's supposed to love you the most is giving you up, and helping children understand that it takes the greatest love of all for a parent to give you up so that you can have a better life. Oftentimes, that's a hard pill for them to swallow. So it does become a place of supporting them and helping to love them through all of their issues and concerns and self-doubt and lack of confidence in who they are because
Yeah.
of all that they've gone through. But
Yeah.
saying all that to say, it is a beautiful, beautiful experience. And if I could do it again, I would.
Oh, absolutely, 1,000,000%. So one thing that you didn't mention that I know exists as well. Well, two things I want to mention here. Hearing you share your experience. First, thank you for sharing, and then secondly, one thing that you didn't mention that we both know exists is the identity. So where do I belong? That sense of belongingness. And in many instances, in some instances, because to your point, there's a lot of stories where children are adopted, and they stay with their adoptive family, and everything is amazing, and they're appreciative. They were well aware about it. And then there's some instances when they age out and turn 18. Again, now they're looking at us like the enemy, and they're like, I want my people, I want my parents. And they go seek, because of that identity that they want to be able to have. Where do I belong? Who do I look like? Who do I act like, walk like, talk like? And even in some instances, to their detriment.
To
They
their
just want that sense of belonging and that identification. And so being able to help them in that place and space. But as I heard you share your story, I couldn't help but think many adults, we hear men and women, and I'll go just left just a little bit. They sometimes say, I'm so tired of building a woman, or I'm so tired of building a man. Well, build a child.
right.
Build a child.
Exactly.
There's a lot of them that
So,
you can pour into, invest in, love on. And to that point, no matter what, because I have grown children, 26 and 23 right now, and one that she's about to be 18. Even with your own children, they go through life challenges, and you still have to coach, mentor, lead, guide, parent, cultivate, no matter what. So I just want to reiterate, whether it's your biological child or your adoptive child, um, it's the same. Just the
it is.
willingness to love, and do your very best, because the seeds, no matter what, have been planted and have been sown. So no matter what they say, no matter how they act in the end, if you know that it came from a genuine place and it came from a pure place, that's all you accountable for.
Right. Absolutely.
And move on with your life. So look, take a moment, because we've said a lot today. To that parent who, or that man or that woman who is thinking about adopting or fostering, what would you say to them?
I would say if you feel the calling and the urge, you should lean into it. It is probably one of the most rewarding things that you can do to give back to a child, to give back to our community, to give back to the greater good. So if you feel that tug or that urge, you should lean into it. There's so many different ways that you can take in children. There's fostering to adopt. There's short term, there's respite, there's emergency fostering. So I mean, all of them have an end. And the good thing is that because they need so many people, I mean, you could do respite care where you keep a child over the weekend for a foster family so that they can have a much needed break, or because they're going out of town. That's short term. You can do emergency fostering. You can do short term. So if you feel it, I strongly encourage you to lean into it. It is truly one of the most rewarding things to give back to, especially when you get the child that realizes that their life is better because of you. It is just life changing. I can't even put it into words how it changes, it enriches your life, it gives you perspective on things. I will tell you, I grew up pretty middle class, actually fairly good for a Black family. And so to see life through the eyes of a child who may be struggling, and or to gain perspective of that family that is struggling and they have to give up their child, it is nothing short of life changing. So I would strongly encourage, it's not about the money, because that, when you're doing it the right way, that little money they give you is nothing. Um, but it is such a, I mean, it's such a rewarding, it brings such a joy to your life.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at it as ministry. And when you look at it as ministry and you are living out your purpose by loving children, there is no greater reward that you can get on this earth, knowing that you are also doing and being like the hands and feet of Jesus to serve children. So I'll stop right there and say, if you feel the urge, lean into it, and talk to other people who've done it.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, everybody has their story. The good thing about fostering is if you get into it and you see that this just isn't it, pick up the phone and call the caseworker, and guess what? They will come and pick up the child tomorrow. So I mean, it's not like it's a done deal until you adopt. So I will say, lean into it, do it. It's one of the best things that you can do to give back to our community.
Absolutely. I agree with you a trillion percent. I guess, and one thing we should have and could have mentioned in the beginning was the process for parenting, right? So there's where you find an agency, there's a number of agencies where you can go directly through DCS. You can do kinship fostering if you have a relative in the system, but you go through a class or a course, you become a licensed foster parent that permits you the opportunity to be able to receive the stipend that goes directly to providing the care for the child. And even once adopted, there's a stipend that continues. There's even food stamp benefits that's related to the child, or Medicaid insurance forever for the child. So a number of benefits put in place to help supplement. But to your point, if you're taking care of that child as if it was your own, that it's just going to be just that, a supplement. It's not going to be sufficient to that,
It
solely
is
take care of a child.
It is not. Not again, not if you're taking care of them. I mean, we made sure she participated in cheer, she participated in gymnastics, she participated. Again, we wanted her to have a well-rounded life. And so when you start engaging in those things cost. But it's nothing less than I would have done for my own biological child. So that being said, you get whatever and I will say, even doing it as an older parent, I realized that I parented differently than when I did it 20 years ago. So yeah, that little subsidy is just that. It's gravy. It's a supplement. But
Yeah,
again, you're blessed because you are blessing someone else. And I will say, people, there are so many organizations and different groups that will support and help foster children. If that's something I wouldn't let money be a barrier. I wouldn't, if I didn't, I wouldn't want someone to say, well, I don't have a lot, so I can't do it. Don't let that stop you. There are so many agencies and people that want to help. It can be done.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, doctor, as we transition, will you
Yeah.
please will you please give your affirmations?
I will. I will. I will. So, one of my affirmations is, my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive.
Okay.
That's Maya Angelou. And then I have another one. Give me one second. I had them written down. I had them down. I had them down. I had them down. Let me hear one of yours while I'm pulling up mine.
Girl, easy. I am Black Girl Magic. I am more than enough. I am a Black girl who rocks. I am the head and not the tail. I am more than a conqueror in Jesus. Girl, you want me? Should I stop?
Okay. I am confident. I am enough. I am loved. I am worthy. I am proud of myself.
There you
I appreciate this opportunity. I am super excited to be on the show tonight.
go.
I love talking about adoption. It's not for everyone. I love talking about fostering. It's not for everyone, but it's for someone. And so I believe with every fiber in my being that there are more people, um, that as we spread the word, there will be more people that will um, take part in this work, because as you all see, as you know, there are so many children that need homes. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's unconscionable, all the societal, that's a whole nother show, all
Yeah.
the societal woes that are plaguing the Black community, that put our children at risk. And if we don't love them, and kudos to the non Black families that are doing it, but we need to take care of our own. And there's enough of us that have found success and have reached professional success that we could give back to. I mean, even if a person said, I'm gonna do it for 2 or 3 years, that's 2 or 3 years that you can bless a child. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this.
Absolutely, girl. Where can people find you if they want to?
So let me just say, social media, I'm learning to become more social media
Friendly, open.
right. So for right now, you can find me on Facebook. I do have an Instagram, Dr. Hawk. I think it's Dr. Hawk, but Facebook is probably the best way to find me.
Okay, so what's the Facebook handle? You didn't give that.
I forgot. I think it's, man, I'm thinking back way back in the days of MySpace. I think my Facebook is Angela. Let me look. Let me look.
Girl, don't even worry about it. By the time we air this, we'll have it and it will be shown underneath. But we're gonna make sure that we put it there. You're good to go. But I want to just tell you, thank you so much for taking the time to bless the stage, bless the podcast, bless the people of God. With sharing your experience and your story as it pertains to being a foster parent and then also fostering to adopt. I greatly appreciate you, sis, and I love you very much. And I'm sending love and positive vibes and positive energy all the way up there to Wisconsin. So I will talk to you soon. Have an amazing day.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Oh my goodness, wasn't that a blessing? Yes, the answer is yes. Yes, it was. That was my sister, the doctor, Angie Hawkins, and I just want to tell her thank you. But I want you all to know that if fostering is something that you're interested in, don't even think about it, just do it. Just do it. It's such a blessing. It's such a reward. It's such a need. The labor is plenty, but the harvest is few. Where do you stand in this situation? Find you a local agency that offers adoption or fostering. You take the courses, you get acclimated, they'll introduce you to how the process works. You get a child, you love on that child, and then you get to sow seeds of love, joy, and prosperity, success in the life of someone that you are privileged to be able to connect with. So until next time, please have an amazing day intentionally. And you know what your girl always say? Let's get it. Hey, let's grow. I love you. Bye.